Good evening to yet another episode of ANC Connect, the African National Congress's podcast where nothing is off limits. We're going to be discussing everything and anything under the sun. But in today's episode, I have none other. We call it jersey number 16, Comrade Meagan Chauke-Adonis. My name is Karabo Mohale and I'm going to be your host for this evening session. We're going to be engaging on a different topic, a topic where I'm really hoping, Meagan, that you can actually teach us, and we say this because, we get the language wrong most of the time. So today we're going to be discussing the rights of persons with disability, not only in South Africa, but the world over. And we're going to be engaging with none other than a feminist, a mother, a passionate activist for the rights of persons with disability, and that is Comrade Meagan Chauke-Adonis. Welcome to ANC Connect and to the ANC studios. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you so much, Karabo. Thank you so much for having me, and also good evening to your listeners and all our fellow comrades who are joining us.
So tell us a bit more about yourself. So who is Meagan? I mean, we're saying your jersey number 16 because you are number 16 on the ANC's list to Parliament, the first young person on the list. So you're in the top 20. I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, yay, we're rubbing shoulders with with giants of the ANC. I mean, tell us a bit about yourself. Who's Meagan? Your activism. How did you get to this point?
Well, let me put it this way. The Meagan that I am now, Meagan Chauke-Adonis, I am a disability rights activist, Karabo. I was not born blind. I became blind in 2015. And it has been a very uphill kind of journey and experience, but it has propelled one to really find the purpose and passion. And disability advocacy is exactly that. All facets of what I do, I've centered it around disability, including my political activism. I've made sure that I'm championing and really advocating for the participation of persons with disabilities within politics, but also having an understanding of what the general sense is when we speak about inclusivity, when we speak about reasonable accommodation, but also how do we work towards empowering persons with disabilities so that we can have a society that really embraces, the different abilities or diversity that exists. So Meagan is a mother, a daughter, a sister, a wife, an activist, and someone who's just pushing boundaries.
Thank you so much. And I love what you're saying, a person who is pushing boundaries. And I want to anchor this because you are the first national convener of the desk of the ANC for persons with disability. How's that journey been? Tell us about the work that you're doing with the desk. And I really must commend you because going to the January 8th statement for the very first time in a long time, we saw persons with disability descending in a January 8th stadium, to listen to the president. I mean, take us through some of the work that you do with the desk.
Karabo, it's been really exciting putting the desk together and coordinating and mobilizing persons with disabilities across the country, also lobbying support for us as disabled members who are organizing themselves and saying we want to contribute towards the political landscape of South Africa. We want to be the ones who are able to guide the ANC to effectively implement all of its policies, legislation, and all the frameworks that are in place. The journey, obviously, like any movement, any revolution, the challenges do exist. And it just comes from a point of us taking the responsibility to sensitize our comrades, number one. Number two, to sensitize all members of society, but also us as disabled members, understanding the crucial role that we play in terms of the political landscape of South Africa and redirecting and sort of being part of the change for the next 30 years in order for us to actually lead a collective revolution. So it's been very exciting. It's had its challenges. We are still faced with challenges, but we know that if we are united, it is possible. And if we have persons with disabilities really understanding their participation, importance of their participation in the African National Congress, I think what we're doing, it's going to be something that's making history. And already we've seen that just us as disabled members of the ANC and the supporters being visible has actually propelled even other political parties to do the same. So we are making an impact.
To say you are game changers would really be an understatement, because like you're saying, you're assisting us as the ANC, you're assisting as a society to be aware, but beyond being aware, to educate one another, because unless we educate one another, we'll not be able to fully understand and immerse ourselves as allies towards the rights of persons with disability. Let's reflect on you being jersey number 16. I mean, being in the top 20. You are right there. You're not too far from President Cyril Ramaphosa. I mean, you're a big shot, you know, in the ANC. What does this mean? Not only for young women, but for persons with disability in the ANC to have this level of representation and to have that stamp of affirmation that we see you, we are with you, and we support you all of the way.
You know, Karabo, it's been, I don't know, unbelievable, number one, because I also did not realize the significance of jersey number 16. I took it as, okay, it's an opportunity. Us as disabled people, young people, you know, we are part of the candidate list. We're going to be part of really leading this transformation and making sure that the ANC is able to effectively implement all of its commitments and programs, you know, nationally, and really revolutionize already what has already been done, you know, and protect our democracy. And then obviously then finding out and really getting to understand from, you know, our fellow comrades who are our veterans, who I also call my guardians and supporters, making me understand to say, Meagan, where you are sitting right now, the way you have been positioned, and it requires for you to actually champion women, champion young people, champion disability. It is giving you a unique opportunity to really, really advance the agenda of the marginalized to a point that it's beyond you. So the responsibility is a lot. It's exciting. I am honored that South Africans, that members of the African National Congress, you know, put so much trust in me. And it's just a matter of taking the opportunity and making sure that we're able to make as much of an impact as possible in the time that we are put into our respective deployments or position. But also, how do we make sure that we reaffirm and recommit ourselves to our people while we're pushing the agenda of young people, of women, and of persons with disabilities. And just as a disabled person myself, Karabo, this is really going to open so many doors and so many opportunities. And I think the African National Congress has already done that so well. Now we just need to amplify it.
And just to say to you, Comrade Meagan, that you really are a beacon of hope. I mean, we've seen the work that you've been doing with us in the Young Women's Desk, and you literally being a champion, you know, for inclusivity, and also educating us on the importance of using language correctly. You know, sometimes we say it's people living with disability, sometimes you say persons with disability, sometimes you say persons of disability. And we have seen the work that you have been doing in sensitizing us on the importance of getting our lexicon correctly. And I want you at this moment just to educate us, you know, how do we define the sector so that, you know, the people that are viewing from home, they can be able to learn. Is it persons with disability, persons living with disability? What is the correct term for us to use to reflect on the challenges that the sector is facing?
Thank you so much. I think that is very important. And I've seen many of our politicians doing it, many of our officials and fellow comrades and colleagues and just members of society, you know, using the politically incorrect terminology that we as disabled people have said through the United Nations. We have said countries coming together, all disabled people, and have decided on the correct, politically correct terminology or way of referring to us as a community or as a sector. And that is disabled people, right? And I think this makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and I've seen it makes Africans uncomfortable because of the negative connotation and stigma around the word disability. But we are disabled people, not because of the physical attributes. We are disabled by society. We are disabled by the environment, and we're disabled from accessing opportunities. And that is what makes us disabled people. So once we say people living with disabilities, it becomes something that we are living that's not sort of part of us. So the disability is something that is part of my uniqueness. It's mine. I cannot remove myself from it. I cannot medicate myself away from it. And therefore, I am disabled because everything around me becomes challenging because of the impairment. So it is disabled people or persons with disabilities. And that is the correct way to refer to us. And I think, you know what, it's most important for us to educate our comrades to say, do not shy away from saying disabled people. I will not be offended because I understand that I've taken and reclaimed the power of what that means for me.
Thank you very much. I mean, you reflected on the United Nations, and in 2007, South Africa joined other countries to ratify the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. I want us to reflect on how important are some of these frameworks in order for us to be able to create this conducive environment for inclusivity. How important are these conventions?
These conventions are very important. I mean, when we look at the ratification of the UNCRPD, that is a big step. And it's through the African National Congress-led government that was possible, right? And we must be honest about
German stroke flag of Belgium. Philip.
Okay. We must appreciate and acknowledge the milestones that we've been able to achieve, correct? And with this ratification, we now have the white paper on the rights of persons with disabilities. And through, our leaders, we are now championing and really advancing for the white paper to be domesticated into an act. And once this is done, then the rights of persons with disabilities in South Africa will be part and enshrined in our constitution as well. But I think it's a big achievement for us as persons with disabilities, and it's a sort of guiding document tool for both the private and the government sector to really speak towards integration, inclusion, and really embracing diversity. It's just a matter of how do we make sure that we're able to hold individuals, businesses, government more accountable to comply to these recommendations and frameworks that are put in place, which are so well drafted by our leaders. We just need to make sure that also our leaders who have a lack of understanding, we sensitize them even more, because they are the ones who are supposed to implement it. And in order for them to effectively implement it successfully, they must have a proper understanding of what it means, what is the history, and the type of impact that these frameworks have.
And I do recall, I mean, in the conversation that we're having with the president in Durban, you did actually reflect on the call to ensure that the white paper now becomes promulgated as an act. I want us to just touch on what are some of the fundamental areas that the white paper reflects on in terms of creating a conducive environment for there to be inclusivity.
We look at the white paper, and the white paper has different articles to it. It speaks about the protection of women with disabilities. It speaks about labor, the protection of disabled laborers. It speaks about inclusive education. It speaks about how it is when we speak about social cohesion, what is the best way to effectively implement that? It speaks about the political participation of people with disabilities, which protects your right to participate within the political landscape in the country, right? It speaks about association. So this white paper, essentially, it's a document that allows for persons with disabilities to exist in South Africa without any form of exclusion or discrimination, because it is a framework, it is legal, that says your rights are acknowledged and are seen. So we must understand that it's not just a mere white paper, but the significance of it and how businesses and the government sector and individuals can use it as a guiding document when it speaks about transformation.
So I want us to reflect, 30 years into democracy, I mean, you would know that on the 27th, we actually commemorated 30 years of freedom as a country and what that means for all of us as a people. But what does 30 years of democracy actually mean for persons with disability? What does freedom look like for a young person, for a young woman with disability?
You know what? I've been doing a lot of reading and also through my studies, I think it has given me, it has enlightened me quite a lot. When we look at the dispensation of democracy, 30 years of democracy, and you reflect to say, where did we start? What is the midpoint? And where are we now? And what are the plans going forward for the next 30 years? 30 years for me as a young woman with a disability right now, it speaks of growth. It speaks of impact. It also speaks of the work that is still to be done, right? We look at 30 years ago. What is the reality of Meagan, a disabled young African woman participating in politics? What is the reality of a disabled young woman with a disability furthering their academic career and getting qualifications? What is the possibility of having a family and contributing towards society and the economy? 30 years ago, the reality of that for a disabled person was a non-reality. So democracy has allowed for young people, for women, and for persons with disabilities to really thrive and excel. So when we reflect, we look at the milestones, we look at the gains of the African National Congress and us as a country. We look at the gains of all the sectors. We look at what it is that we now need to amplify and make sure that for the next 30 years, we're able to reach the goals that we were not able to attain. We've got the political freedom. Now we work towards economic liberation.
On a lighter note, Meagan, how do you do it? How are you a mother? How are you an activist? How are you an academic? How are you doing all of these things?
I think it's just having a really good support structure. And I think a lot of people with disabilities, that's what we're lacking. But also, you must remember, we've come from past traumas. And as disabled people, physical, emotional, psychological abuse is on a daily basis. So it requires for you to have a really strong support structure, to be strong-willed and understand what your purpose is. Finding my purpose is what's driving me. My family, it's what's driving me. My colleagues, it's what's driving me. Because I've gotten to a point where I'm confident enough for them to be confident in me. And they give me the strength when I need it the most. Because there are times where you forget, you feel overwhelmed. You're a mom, you're a daughter, you're a wife, you're an activist, you're in politics, you're a business owner, you're all of these things. And you are ambitious, you're a student. A disabled person 30 years ago and a disabled person now, we are in a completely different mindset. Disabled people are so conscious now. They want to be contributors. We are active. We are vibrant. We want to be integrated and seen. We want to be part of society. So it's just a matter of really finding a balance, having a good support structure. And that is what's keeping me going and understanding that I am called to this. It's beyond just whether I want to or not. It is my purpose.
If you've just joined us, ladies and gentlemen, this evening we're having a conversation on the rights of persons with disability with an activist, a mother, a business owner, and that is our very own comrade Meagan Adonis. Meagan, I want us to continue with our conversation and really just reflect on what are some of the interventions. I mean, we're going into the 7th administration. We were saying that, the mood is the mood of winning. We're definitely coming back. We're taking this thing. But as we take it, what are some of the pertinent recommendations that we would want President Cyril Ramaphosa, together with his cabinet, prioritize, especially when we're speaking about the rights of persons with disability?
I think with this, and definitely we're taking this, we're winning. 2/3 majority all the way.
We're doing this.
Yeah, persons with disabilities, young people, women, all South Africans, we are really excited about the 7th administration. I think one of the things that I'm really pushing for and very much unapologetic about is having the white paper, domesticated and being passed into an act. That is very important. Also advancing and really promoting and understanding inclusive education, because that does not only benefit me as a disabled person, it's going to benefit those who are previously disadvantaged, who are not able to access education, but also where there are delays in their academic careers. I think it's very important for us to also look at how we can enforce some of our policies, which is very important, because I think, for example, we look at the Equity Act, and when we speak about the equity and we speak about the 7% of persons with disabilities, now what are we doing to ensure that both public and private sector, it is being applied, it's implemented? So I think we need to really put laws that are going to really force for the business owners, for government, for different stakeholders to really start to understand the importance of that 7% and start to achieve the 7%, because there are 7% of persons with disabilities who will qualify for different appointments. We will also push that persons with disabilities should move away from, we've moved away from being a social welfare, right? Where human rights matter. Let's really, really walk the talk on that and really push for that advocacy and the full integration. Lastly, it would be, those who are going into cabinet and who will be representing us so well, let us make sure that when we speak about representation of persons with disabilities, it must be reflected in all facets of society. We must not have persons with disabilities only at the lower levels. Persons with disabilities must be integrated and represent themselves and represent the sector in the decision-making structures, so that we're able to really achieve equality and when we speak about self-representation, I don't want someone making a decision on our behalf. Let us be part of making the decision so that we can make sure that the implementation is done correctly. So that's what we'll push for. We push also for, our cabinet ministers to look at a percentage of hiring persons with disabilities for permanent employment. So it speaks towards economic empowerment. It speaks towards eradicating poverty within the sector. It looks towards job creation, skills development, inclusive education, and really being intentional about it. And really looking at how it is that young people or children who are born with disabilities from an early stage, ECD level, they are really well taken care of and they are groomed and are ready to really be active citizens of South Africa.
Thank you very much for actually, cementing in us that when we leave here, we all in our respective workspaces in our communities need to institutionalize the inclusion of the rights of persons with disability in our daily lives. It shouldn't just end with us, running around saying, no, we need a ramp. I mean, that alone says to us, we are not prioritizing or institutionalizing the rights of persons with disabilities. And I really want to appreciate the work that you continue doing in actually advocating and calling there for the institutionalization of the rights of persons with disability. But I want us to have a reflection. I mean, you're in the ICT sector, as a young person with disability in this sector, how are you navigating your way around it? And how do we ensure that the environment and the space and the sector becomes more inclusive?
I think it's a matter of, once again, it goes to the the word is not going to come out.
Institutionalization. Yes.
There we go. Thank you. The English bundle sometimes. But I think it's important in terms of our implementation and being intentional about it, right? We look at the different programs that are being offered within this particular sector of ICT. But are we being intentional about targeting persons with disabilities or young people with disabilities to contribute towards it? Now, we look at just the innovation and technology space, right? Many of our technologies are not developed by persons with disabilities because the red tape is so much. So we need to look at whether the red tape is there. Does it allow for persons with disabilities or innovators and those who are looking to enter into the sector to really excel and progress? or is it sort of hindering the progress? But I think we should have more young people, more persons with disabilities really participating within this ICT revolution that is taking place. But we've also seen how it is that persons with disabilities are able to thrive through innovation and technology. And that should be a unique opportunity for us to say persons with disabilities should not be having any limitation because that's where they thrive. Myself being a young person or a person with a disability, blindness, I know I function through technology on a daily basis. And therefore, it means I am able to contribute in one way or another within that particular sector with my skills. So if we can make sure that those skills, such as robotics, coding, are taken into, our disability schools, into mainstream schooling, are taken into the rural areas, I think we'll really, really have a thriving economy and a really buzzing wealth of experience and knowledge, and those who are specialists within the sector. But really also, it's to say, because we create systems and applications for vulnerable populations, bringing the solutions where we've identified problems within the sector, the support of government and the private sector, it's very important. So if we can really, really find a way, a strategy to have the support streamlined and for it to be intentional, I think would be finding more innovators within the sector coming from disability, participating without any challenges, but obviously understanding that as a business owner, the challenges will exist, but being able to propel them to the next part of their career or their business.
Thank you for reminding us that there's really nothing under the sun that is beyond your reach. You shouldn't have any limitation, and it becomes our collective responsibility to ensure that we create those rooms for everyone so that they participate freely and fairly. Let's just reflect on, not so long ago, South Africa added sign language as an official language in South Africa. So we've moved from 11 to 12 languages. What does this signify? What is the importance of this level of inclusivity?
This was groundbreaking. This was, for us as disabled people, I must say, and I think many people might underestimate what the sign language being one of the official languages really signifies for us as disabled people. It speaks towards integration, it speaks towards inclusion, it speaks towards recognition, and it speaks towards sensitizing our society. For it to be an official language, it means then it is known by all South Africans. We are recognized and we are seen as members of society as well. And within the disability sector, we've seen that there are many communication barriers. And with the sign language being an official, not just a by the way, an official language, for us, it is a step in the right direction. And from this, it means then the sky is no longer the limit. Anything is possible for us as persons with disabilities. We are not just passengers in society. We are active citizens. And this is exactly what it's showing. And through the work that is already being done, it already shows the commitment that is given by our government and our leaders as well. And I think it's just a stepping stone to say from this, what is the next step? Because we've managed to accomplish this and we've seen the type of impact it's having. And also for the deaf community, that recognition, it's a recognition that goes beyond just words. And we really, really do appreciate it. And we look for it to actually be integrated in all schools. It should be part of the syllabus so that our children understand and know how to best communicate with the deaf community. But because it's an official language, it should be part of our academic curriculum.
Back to the desk that you are leading as the national convener. What can we look forward to? I mean, I know you've been crisscrossing the whole entire country. You are in the process of establishing provincial desks for persons with disability. What can we look forward to?
Well, Karabo, you can look forward to a collective revolution that's taking place. We are taking the political space by storm. We're going to make sure that the African National Congress on Disability Matters it's right on top of it. Our officials will have the necessary and proper guidance for implementation for anything related to the sector. But we're also going to be establishing, and we've already started those processes of establishing our provincial teams and also our regional teams. And I think this has really, really awoken something within the disability sector. We've seen the excitement, in provinces and regions and branches where we speak about, this collective revolution of organized disabled members of the African National Congress and being recognized as a formation, not just as individuals, but as part of an internal and integral structure of the ANC. We will have programs across the country. We will have some dialogues. We will have some programs where we are engaging and interacting with civil society organizations, our disability rights activists, and giving appreciation and acknowledgement to our veterans as well. We do know that within the veterans, there are many persons with disabilities, and we look to offer the necessary support to them, but also to really, really draw from the wealth of knowledge that they have. So there's a lot that we're going to do. We're going to really transform this entire space, and we're looking to improve the lives of all South African citizens, but also making sure that we're able to inspire future generations to come and leave a legacy. But obviously, we're going to take it a step further,
Yes.
which is we will be saying to our African National Congress, come, the sitting council, Siyayifuna Disability League.
Siyayifuna.
Yes.
And many might not even know that you have been on the polls as a ward councillor candidate in our region in Tshwane.
Yes.
And it speaks to your bravery, but also you intentionally putting your body on the line to make a call that we are here to make a meaningful contribution, not only in the ANC, but in South Africa holistically. How was that journey for you?
That journey was, sometimes you take things very lightly until you're really immersed in it and you say, oh, wow, Meagan, did you really? Are you sure? And you've already gotten in so deep and you just go with it. And because some things just come naturally, as I said to you, because I'm really passionate about it and it is a calling. I enjoy it so much. So for me, at the time where I was, put as the councillor candidate for the African National Congress in Ward 42, it was an honor. And also it was scary because of the time that we find ourselves in. But it was an opportunity and a challenge that I was ready for, to say that where I'm called to serve, it is my responsibility to avail myself. But not only that, I'm not only speaking and being a mouthpiece for myself, I'm a mouthpiece for many who will come after me. And I will be creating awareness and sensitizing, people in our region, South Africans, etc. And it will also inspire those who will come after me that it is possible. But the journey has been really exciting for me. I do understand that if you want to achieve anything, you must fight for it. And I've always said this, I'm ready for the fight. I'm going till the bitter end until I see that each and every single South African citizen, the disabled community is emancipated, empowered, and then we can start doing a checklist and seeing if we are achieving equality.
So we're going to near the end of our conversation. I really do hope that the people that are listening at home can literally see the quality that the ANC has, the quality that the ANC produces, through you. I think you continue to motivate us, you continue to inspire us, but you also continue to instill a spirit and imbue in us a spirit of servanthood. And remember the words of Mam Charlotte Maxeke, that this work is not your own, that, the fight that you are engaged in, there's a saying that says that, you're going to plant trees, but you might never be able to sit under its shade. And sometimes it does happen that, you wage such a relentless and selfless war and battle, for the rights of different people. And I really want to thank you for not giving up and not relenting on ensuring that you echo and amplify the voices of young women, young Black women in particular, persons with disability. I mean, when we reflect about the marginalization of young Black women, they're literally at the bottom. So you can imagine when you've got a disability, and you have continuously taught us that there's nothing that is impossible, and you definitely need to stand up and rise and take a stand and be counted. And for that, we can never thank you enough for continuously putting your body on the line. But we're going to the elections on the 29th of May. What is your message to South Africans? What is your message to young women, looking at you and saying, jersey number 16 and Sabaweli, she's right up there in the echelons of the ANC. What is your message to South Africans?
I think before I even get to the message, it's, this journey and where we are right now as the Disability Desk, as Meagan, who is leading as the national convener, would have not been made possible if we did not have such competent leaders in our provinces, coming from the disability sector. So we appreciate them for the work that they are doing. They are really on the ground, and they are pushing, they are advocating, they are mobilizing. They are really our foot soldiers. So let me start off by appreciating all of our fellow disabled comrades who have put their lives on the line as well, who have made those contributions and sacrifices, taking away from family, financial contributions. We really, really, really must applaud them and appreciate them. But as jersey number 16, and as a young African woman with a disability, I'm saying that the sky is no longer the limit. And we have seen that the African National Congress has been committed towards advancing the rights of all South Africans and championing the rights of persons with disabilities and the vulnerable. And it's for us as young people, as disabled people, to really amplify the work that has already been done, and also to make sure that we protect our democracy. That is important. We must protect our gains. We must appreciate our gains, and we must see how to best contribute towards it. It is not the responsibility of our officials alone or our politicians alone. We must be active citizens at the end of the day. We must not be bench warmers. We must go out in our communities and see how we can contribute towards, this growing South Africa, this amazing, amazing country, this democracy that we've been able to achieve, and make sure that in 30 years, when we do the next 30-year review and we're doing 60 years, we have something better to tell than what we're telling now. We must be able to say, we must amplify the gains that have been made, and we must strengthen. And in terms of our commitment, you look at the priorities of the African National Congress, all 6 priorities. How are we as citizens going to contribute towards its positive and effective implementation? And it's going to require for all of us to really start playing our role.
Thank you so much, Meagan Adonis. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was our comrade, jersey number 16. That is how we wrap it up on today's ANC Connect. She says the sky is no longer the limit. There is nothing under the sun that is beyond your reach and over the sun. So go out there. Your dreams are valid. We see you and we support you, and want to say thank you to the national convener of the desk in the ANC for the rights of persons with disability. See you in another episode. Thank you very much for tuning in.